What's up, everybody? My name is Galson Anthony, the best to ever do it, and this is the G2G podcast. And before I get busy, before I get active, before we start having this beautiful conversation, please like, subscribe, comment about anything you think I should be doing as far as this conversation is concerned and the next. In studio, I have somebody who's been here before. This man's real name is Nthamulo Baloy. A lot of things has been said about him, and he had done said a lot of things too. We got a lot of specific things to talk about, but first, let me introduce who I'm speaking to. Mr. Neanderthal himself, the man that was the most popular guy on February 17th around the world, so much so even Elon Musk got to know about him. I'm talking about Nota. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I've got 0% Neanderthal blood in me.
No, you've got 0.5.
Nah. You see, so the points are for the people that are in Upper West Africa and some parts of Upper Central Africa and North Africa as well. So they always see all Africans as one people. We Southern Africans never went into contact with the Neanderthals.
All right, since you want to get into the Neanderthals topic, all right, I wanted to go slow.
We came into contact with them when we started breeding with them. You know, that's why there's colors today.
Okay, so Nota, you're talking to Galson Anthony.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that is that if there's one person that can challenge you toe-to-toe with knowledge, it is I, right? So let's start with this whole situation, right? With what you said on DJ Spoo Hustler's Corner, and you decided to wear the shirt, right? He went on promo. I don't understand this guy, right? And by the way, I like DJ Spoo. We acquainted with each other. We don't really know each other like that, but I like the man. But this man is trying to start problems on my channel.
You see,
DJ Spoo, please talk to your boy.
Out of everyone in the game, you know, no one has gotten more calls. Yo, why do you keep having that guy on your show? Yo, that guy's going to kill your podcast and everything else. And the numbers have been growing and growing and growing. And I mean, that podcast episode is the most impactful podcast in South African podcasting history.
I will process that word, as you say it, impactful, because it's not the biggest, but I'm trying to figure out, is it impactful as I process that? But let's talk about what you said there. You said that white people have the Neanderthal DNA in them. So it's kind of like training a dog.
I didn't say it like that.
No, you didn't. And this is why I don't want to misquote you, right? Because you ended up going to the South African Human Rights Commission for this whole situation, and you gave me the privilege to read it. Can I talk about that?
Well, yeah, we'll give you the privilege to read what?
Let's take it, one step at a time. You said that white people have this Neanderthal DNA, so therefore you try to insinuate their barbarianism, right? They're below the insinuation. You didn't say that. You say that they're below the definition of what human beings are. Because of that, 2% Neanderthal that they have in them. DNA, right? So Neanderthal, according to the research that I made, is that Europeans and Asians have Neanderthal DNA in it. Now I've got a half Asian son, right? So he's got Neanderthal in him. So is he less human because of that?
He's less Homo sapien than you, yes.
He's less Homo sapien than I am. And how do you come up to that conclusion?
So the Neanderthal DNA is recessive DNA. So it's dominated. So let's say 100% Neanderthal a man has children with 100% Homo sapien woman, right? Those children will not have a 50-50 split in the genes. In fact, the Neanderthal gene will carry less than 10%.
I think the science that you're talking about, now I'm no expert, so I'm not speaking out of authority.
And neither am I an expert.
And that's the thing, is that because you're also not an expert, the way you're speaking about it, you're inciting people to feel certain ways about you, whether it's good or bad. And the thing is that you would have to speak not only from a research point of view, but from an authoritative point of view. Being Homo sapien, you always 100%. However, being Homo sapien comprises of so many different DNAs, right? Which makes you a complete Homo sapien. In a video I did, I don't know if you saw it,
You cannot expect the same behavior of a human being that you're expecting of a dog.
In my belief, Nota's argument is quite self-defeating. Using Nota's logic of white people have Neanderthal DNA of 1 to 2%, somebody can argue in bad faith that black people have 19% of archaic hominin DNA. Now, what is that? That is known to be a completely different species that is known in today's time as primitive. Yes, not much is known about them, but if somebody used that argument in bad faith, they could say, well, black people are primitive creatures. Now, using these arguments all together, having a DNA of higher sort or a lower sort in percentages does not mean a mark of inferiority or superiority. What if white people said that that we have that hominin DNA? I forgot the hominin DNA, which is the primitive, right? Would they look like they've got this ape-like looking figure when you look at them? And black people, including myself, right, being black, I have almost 19% of that DNA. And then they could say, because of that DNA, I am only 71%. It was 81% Homo sapien, but 19% baboon or monkey.
Yeah, that would be stupid of them to say, because...
Then it would be stupid of you to say that because they've got 2% of Neanderthal, therefore that they're less than humans.
They got a percentage of Neanderthal DNA because of the mixing between Homo sapiens sapiens and Neanderthals.
But what about the hominins?
So therefore, us as Homo sapiens sapiens, right? Every single gene that we have as Homo sapiens sapiens, they have. In addition to having the gene of, I'd say more primitive species that we lived with, that was slaughtered to death.
But you're not answering anything towards what I'm speaking about now. This primitive.
So what I'm saying to you is this: is that 100% of the DNA that we have, right? That we have, they have. They also have an additional DNA from the Neanderthal lineage. So if they point out,
so let me correct you there. We have Neanderthal DNA in us. It's just far less.
Well, no,
We've
not
got
all of us.
Not 0.3 to 0.5%
but
of
not
Neanderthal.
All of us.
Do you know what Neanderthal actually does in your body? Your DNA?
I don't think they've actually had advanced studies where they've actually fleshed out.
Oh, there actually is. Actually, again, I do not want to speak at a place of authority. I'm only speaking at a place of research. It actually helps with digestion. So it happens that people with higher Neanderthal have better digestions in general. So these certain DNAs help certain peoples in certain ways, or has advantages and disadvantages. But I think the core argument here is calling white people less than humans by virtue of 2%. When we have 0.5%.
It had nothing to do with DNA.
Then what was it about?
It's about culture.
But the thing is, let's not run away from what you said. By pure definition, because of that Neanderthal, they are below the humans.
Yes.
Those are the words that you said.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But that's got nothing to do with their culture and their behavior. I mean,
I agree.
You could have a very well-behaved...
But that's a separate conversation.
You could have a very well-behaved monkey. You understand what I'm saying? A very well-behaved monkey that behaves better than human savages.
I don't know, what does that mean and how is that involving this topic?
The point is this: white culture is formed in savagery. I also said there isn't a place on God's green earth that they haven't come there and decimated the native inhabitants. There isn't a place. They are murderous savages. That's their culture. They call it conquest. We call it savagery. This is broad history. This is the history of white cultures. When they have the intention to invent a weapon, they don't just invent a weapon that can harm an enemy in one-to-one combat. No. They invent bombs that can decimate entire populations. They invent viruses like smallpox that they spread amongst unvaccinated Native Americans and then decimate their populations. And therefore the Americas, have got a native population which is less than the settler population in certain countries like Argentina. I mean, even a country like Brazil, yes, obviously there are still some native inhabitants there, but their population is less than those who were brought in from Africa as slaves, as well as those who came in as European settlers in the colonial times. So the culture of white people throughout white history, even to this very date, is that of savagery. It's that of inhumane behavior that is normalized to the point where they feel like they're entitled to behave like that.
And as you say, let's pause that. I did not forget this. I want to come back to it. Let's go back a couple steps back. And I did speak about this, and you didn't answer it. If white people, and I don't have the full name, I'm going to put it on screen, and said that you have 19% of this hominin sapien DNA.
Hominid.
No, it's a hominin. Well, look.
Hominid, yes. It's a hominid.
I'll put it on screen. You are a primitive creature. You are a black monkey. How would you feel about that? Because that is a tantamount argument to Neanderthal.
I'd go back to my cultural argument. What about my culture shows my savagery? What of my culture shows my lack of civilization?
Okay, so the culture, the reason why I did not tap into that culture thing, because it's really a different topic. You made a point of the culture part, and I really do want to get into it. But I'm saying word for word, tantamount, what you said was, white people have the Neanderthal DNA in them, right? So because of that, they're below the strict definition of humankind. Now, I'm taking that
Homo
tantamount.
sapien, yeah.
Yeah, which is humans, right?
Humankind includes
Humankind, right.
Includes all of us.
Understood. So now, black people, they've got this DNA in them up to 19%. So why are they above sapiens all of a sudden when they've got a much bigger percentage of that? Now, if a white person uses that argument on you, do you think it's a fair argument? That is my question. And I want you to answer it and not run away from it.
I'm answering it directly. I'm saying that it would never be a fair argument because what I'm referring to is behavior and culture. That is it. When I speak about Ubuntu, it's a value system. It's a culture. When I'm speaking about people who do not have Ubuntu, right? That is what I'm seeing as an inferior culturally behavior.
Whose culture?
Anyone that doesn't have Ubuntu.
Right. So I've been around the world. I'm fortunate about that. I've married into different cultures. I'm privileged with that. Well, the non-privileged is the divorce part. I've done a lot of things that exposed me to a lot of people everywhere all the time. And the little bit I learned about the people, they're different. Here's what African people are. They've got more humanity in them, according to that definition.
Which Africans?
Africans in general. So humanity is there, right?
I'd say less so in West Africa.
The less so, but I'm just generalizing here.
Yeah.
Understand the generalizing.
I mean, as the Southern Africans, we didn't sell our fellow Southern Africans as slaves.
That's fine. The topic, I want to stay within topic. That is an African thing. Now,
no, it's not. It's Southern African. It's
that's
not
fine. Let's take it Southern African for the
Yeah.
sake of just moving forward. Now, the thing is, because Southern African people have it, it doesn't now mean that by virtue of other people not having it, they are to be judged according to our standards.
It does mean that.
No,
They're
it
here
doesn't.
in our home. Yes. Now, that's the thing
No,
about...
but here's your argument, right? I understand the culture part.
No. White people came here. They need to assimilate to our culture, not the other way around. It's bad enough we speak their language with a proficiency that they cannot even master. But they still need to assimilate to our culture. They need to assimilate to Ubuntu. That's the only way in which we can coexist within this environment. Otherwise, we will slaughter all of them, drive them to the sea, literally. It might not be me. It might not be me calling for it.
I'm not a part of that thing. I'm just allowing him to talk.
No, I'm just saying, it might not be me. It might not be me calling for that. In fact, if white people are being driven to the sea, I'm least likely to be in the front lines driving them to the sea, right? Because of my disposition. But
what is your disposition?
As in, I'm a privileged black person in this country.
So why would you want to drive white people to the sea if you're just as privileged as they are?
The majority of black people, right, have been oppressed by white people and the white system. And if at any point they decide that they want to drive people to the sea, I will not discourage them.
Mm-hmm. Let's discuss this white versus black. So South Africa has a black and white problem. It is very, very big. My question to you is, are you aware that since the inception of apartheid, there has been white people, mostly tilting left, that was against apartheid? Are you aware of that?
No, there have been no white people that have been against.
What about the PFP?
None of them.
There were so many from 1950, from the inception
None of them have
it.
been against apartheid.
Oh, they were. Some
No,
even
no.
worked with the ANC.
And
So actually, they worked through and through with the ANC.
And so
they were against it.
And just because they claim they're against it, just because they're moralistic amongst their contemporaries, doesn't mean that they were against apartheid.
No, they were.
You need to understand
it was actually
that
very
apartheid
frank of how they were against it.
Apartheid only came into play 24 years into the Afrikaners' involvement in active politics within the parliamentary system. So the coalition, the coalition.
So the republic was set up in 1949, and then when did apartheid kick in?
So, 1948. But either way, apartheid kicks in 1948, right?
Right.
But prior to the republic being set up, right, the coalition government and the Union Party, the South African Party coalition government, Jan Smuts and Barry Hertzog, that came into power in 1924. So it took them 24 years post the colonial settlement of South Africa's Anglo-Boer War conflict to then establish apartheid, right? Apartheid was not first challenged. It only started getting challenged when African Americans fought for their civil rights in 1964. Miriam Makeba went over to the States, spoke at the United Nations. The United Nations started speaking about imposing certain sanctions and boycotting South Africa. The boycott movement resulted in sanctions only being implemented in 1985 by the Reagan administration. The Reagan administration was compelled to uphold sanctions even though Reagan had vetoed it. All the support for for a democratic dispensation in South Africa was not about ending apartheid as a system. It was about ending the sanctions.
What about the Liberal Party South Africa? They were established in 1950. What were they about?
Where are they now?
They're decimated.
No, they're part of the DA now.
No. Yeah. They got some DA in it. I won't take that away. What about the PFP?
That is the DA.
So that in that case, then you're saying that the DA is actually anti-apartheid.
I don't believe white liberals are not racist. I believe that...
What is racist to you?
For me, I'm racist.
Well, it's clear, but what is racist to you?
For me, anyone that is against mixing of races is a racist.
That's that?
Yeah, I would not mix my race. I don't want my kids to have mixed races.
So you would mix nationalities, not race?
I would not. I do not want my kids to have a doubt about whether they're fully black or they're partly white.
So if you're racist, why are you mad at other people being racist?
I've never been mad at white people for being racist. That's why I've got so many white friends. I've never been offended.
Then why would you want them to be driven to the sea?
I don't want them to be driven to the sea. That's not me. But I cannot speak for all the other.
Then why do you speak of them as lesser human beings?
Their culture is less humane than our culture.
That's fine. If we argue that the culture is less humane, that's fine. Yeah. But it's funny enough that I don't actually disagree with you. But how are they less human beings in the process?
So what makes us human beings...
Because we're talking DNA
What
now.
makes us human beings is culture and behavior.
And DNA?
DNA is what makes us primates. So if we're all primates, right, then there is no differentiation between our behavior and that of gorillas because they act on instinct. We are human beings because we act on our behavior. We think, we have a culture, we have a society. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so if as primates we're savage in our behavior and that was part of our nature, and certain primates decided that our nature is too uncouth and they need to civilize themselves, and they've come up to a point where they civilize themselves to the point where, they don't believe in killing other primates on a mass scale. They believe in other conflict resolution methods, right? Then they would be the superior, more civilized of those primates. And that's the situation in which we find ourselves in as Southern Africans.
So then you're explaining history for the past 6,000 years. Now, 6,000 years, it was always about conquest. One group of culture, nationality of people has always been the case.
No,
it's never
not
been
always
a point.
been about conquest.
It's always been about conquest. But let me finish the sentence.
Go to Kemet.
Let me finish.
When the Nubians arrived in Kemet, did they conquer Kemet? No, they didn't.
Okay, fine.
They came there, they rebuilt it.
You're talking about certain situation where people try to coexist with each other, but human history in general, not even in general, more so than not, was about conquest.
And why is that?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Mostly because of Europeans.
No. There
Yes.
was conquest before that. But,
I understand
you
that.
go
I
past
understand
so
that, but the
European
Europeans-
history starts from 1200. Prior to 1200, right? There's another 4,000 years before, actually 5,000 years before that.
And more
what
killing,
about that time?
More killing happened in that time since there were Europeans than in the time prior.
Well, there were more humans to kill. The population kept
when you
doubling.
read the Bible, right?
We bring the Bible into this.
When you read the Bible.
Okay, let's go.
Because that's sort of like a historic record. Where are the mass deaths event?
You tell me.
Naturally occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mass deaths naturally occurring. Tell me some more. Tell me
I'm
the
just saying,
events.
so
tell me the events
history,
because I know about some, and
the
I can
plagues.
Okay.
You know,
how many
floods,
people died in the plagues? They didn't mention. They didn't mention how
but
many.
Lots of people died.
Okay, so now the thing is,
Even
the Bible has
Exodus,
ways of actually telling you how many people died in certain events. There were events that 180,000 people died. There's an events where 250,000 people died.
Naturally.
No.
It wasn't by a device that was man-made that killed everyone. It might have been behavior that led to a culture which made people vulnerable to diseases.
None of them were white.
You understand what I'm saying? But now, when you put in the white history that starts in the 13th century, if that's how you're putting it, I'd put it even before that because, I mean, the Roman Empire expanded into the British Isles at the beginning of the 10th century, which is in the 1000th. And I think William the Conqueror took the throne.
How many people died then?
1066.
How many people died?
Thousands, hundreds of thousands,
and that was thousands. But you're so mistaken. You just don't even understand that there's so much history you don't understand. What about the guy who marked people's asses blue? What's his name? The Asian person. He wasn't white. He's got the highest record of deaths recorded in history.
Genghis Khan. And what does he have as well? His DNA?
Neanderthal, according to... But I hear you.
Surprise.
But here's the thing is that you're speaking about white people here.
I'm speaking about Eurasians. Yes, that entire continent. The cultures that were created within that continent were created in the most unforgiving conditions. I mean, they're far from the tropics. It's not the most pleasant place to stay.
So I hear what you're saying, and I understand your argument. Your argument is still hateful, nonetheless, right?
No. You cannot say. You could say maybe. No. You could say maybe it's prejudiced. To say it's hateful, I don't hate anyone.
Prejudice, hateful, not far from each other. I will agree.
Okay.
It's still hateful, nonetheless.
But hate is illegal. Prejudice is not.
Okay, fair enough. Right. For the sake of the argument, I want to move forward. But with that being said, the inciting of saying such nasty things, and look, I'm for freedom of speech. I'm for freedom of speech, but freedom of speech has limitations. This is where I want to get to the place where, are you prevalent to speak about your situation with the Human Rights Council of South Africa?
Yeah.
Can we speak about it?
Yeah.
Right here on the podcast?
Yeah.
All right, so you were taken there. That's why we're here. Well, we didn't pre-discuss it. That's why I want to talk to you about it. So you've been taken there about that speech, and you argue that this has been taken out of context. Now, uninterrupted, please tell me about the context.
That's exactly what I've been explaining. The context is this, is that we're having a discussion about what's actually currently happening in South Africa with our racial relations. And the fact that you've got a lot of black people that are trying to express their unhappiness with the current status quo and also trying to, I guess, get some empathy from white South Africans who are more privileged in our current disposition and more privileged than they were in our previous dispensation. And we've got a misunderstanding because we're speaking different languages. Our culture, right, is formed in Ubuntu. Theirs is formed in Savagery. And therefore we're lost in translation. And just as much as black people are trying, which is a righteous cause in my belief, to get more equal opportunities in this current dispensation, white people are feeling like those black people are over entitled, and demanding too much, and they should get over oppression, they should get over apartheid, they should get over colonialism, they should get over the savagery that was,
You yourself are a savage.
In terms of what? In terms of our colloquial use of the word, as in that's a savage response.
Oh, now you choose to use the word colloquial.
Yeah.
In this whole situation, but you wasn't using colloquialism when it came to the white people. You savage in a sense that you're using this word to go against them, to incite this feeling and this emotion. I mean, politics do that, right? A lot of politicians, and I can give you a whole list of names, are doing what you're doing to try and rally this hate for the other people, us against them. And I'm talking about the white people here.
But
so that's
why are you
savagery.
saying I'm trying to rally up hate?
No. Let me rephrase. You have.
No, I have not.
You have. There are people, black people feel the way that you do now suddenly because it's like, you know what? Nota is an authority of information. And now because he said it, yeah, white people, these people are dogs.
So you're saying that me telling black people that they should never feel inferior to whites is now inciting them?
Now, you see that, what you did there? You selected one line.
I don't think
anyone should feel inferior to anybody at any given point.
But do you believe that there are inferior cultures? The ones that fail to survive, like the Afrikaners. They've got an inferior culture. 15% of people in South Africa were Afrikaans speakers in 1996. It's now 10%. Some immigrated. Others, their children refuse to speak Afrikaans. They'd rather speak English. Their children themselves don't like their own language enough to speak it.
But Nota, you're actually bringing me back to where we get to the first point, where that the LPSA, the SACOD, and all these people were against apartheid. Now there's some people that took it upon to them. They're feeling guilty. and saying that by virtue of...
Let me concede. Can I concede?
You can.
They were against apartheid. They weren't against white supremacy.
What is white supremacy?
White supremacy is believing that white people are superior, that they've got manifest destiny, that, anything that their feet touch belongs to them.
So all these
and
parties, the
God.
FFF and these people that I mentioned, the FFF, the LPSA, and all these people wanted equality. Where is white supremacy?
They didn't want equality.
That is actually their mandate. Equality.
They can claim their mandate. You sat here with Ernst Roos and he tried to dilly-dally in each and every single way when you asked him the question if a black person can be the head of AfriForum.
Let's talk about that. Can a black person be the president of AfriForum?
No, it cannot, because AfriForum is a racist organization.
Okay. That is not the question.
No, I'm saying no.
Okay.
They cannot.
Now, the thing is, I don't want to discuss why they're not racist.
Okay.
The question is, AfriForum, can they be a black CEO?
No, it cannot.
Okay. Now, besides having the generic answer because they're racist, why can't they be?
Okay. Now, AfriForum believe that Afrikaans is a white language when we know that it's not. They've stolen a language, right? And made it their own and tried to keep exclusive rights to it and have given themselves what they call God-ordained right.
You know why that is actually trash?
Okay.
Because when apartheid was in, right? And I'm against apartheid in every form and way.
Mm-hmm.
When apartheid
But you never experienced it.
Of course not.
And no one in your bloodline was killed because of apartheid.
Oh, thank God.
People in my bloodline have been killed.
Okay.
So be careful how you put it.
No. I'm not going to feel sorry for you because of that, right?
It's not about you feeling sorry.
And I see that guilt trip that you're playing. You're playing that guilt.
It's not a guilt trip.
It's like, I got to feel, no, I'm not going to feel any kind of way about it. And I want you to understand that, right? So I'm speaking, one can sound speaking from a point of privilege. I take that privilege and I run with it. But AfriForum, thinking about it, is that you'd have to be a part of AfriForum to be a CEO. Now, if Galson decides, and he won't, join AfriForum.
Penwell did.
No, that's up to Penwell.
I'm saying that let's use him as an example.
Let Penwell do what Penwell does.
No, he did. He's left now.
Yeah, that's fine. I love Penwell. I think he's an intelligent guy. I actually want him to sit there. But let Penwell do what Penwell wants to do. If Galston decides to join AfriForum, and he's like, you know what? I actually can make a change here. I could say, hey, guys, can I be CEO? It's like, yo, you have to learn Afrikaans. I'm like, okay, if that's a prerequisite, then I'll learn the language. No problem. Do you understand? And I will be that CEO, no problem. So in theory, it makes sense, but it's very unlikely because Galston learning Afrikaans, the chances are very low. I'm not interested in learning it. I mean, I struggled with Afrikaans when I got to learn about the Afrikaans people. Now, I'm not really interested in learning the language. But in theory, it can happen. He answered that. But practically, it doesn't make any sense. For example, it is further said on my comments section that can a non-Zulu person become a Zulu king?
Can we stop asking stupid questions?
It's not a stupid question.
It is,
it's a very
because
fair
we
question.
know how royalty works. No, it's a bloodline thing.
Correct.
There you go. That's a dumb question. Next one. Whoever put that in the comments is too dumb to be watching this platform.
I'll tell you why. I understand the royalty. It's a bloodline thing. But now if you have to say that, okay, because it's a bloodline thing, we have to exclude everybody else out.
Yeah.
AfriForum has an argument to say that you have to be a white Afrikaans, but they didn't say that.
Afrikaans is not by blood. That's the thing. Afrikaans is a Creole language.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. Afrikaans is a Creole language that was...
You know, we're not arguing language, you're arguing race.
I know. But that's the thing, is that AfriForum and groups like them have taken Afrikaans and used it as a racial cultural group. They've made Afrikanerdom a form of whiteness. And therefore, all the majority in the main actually, non-white Afrikaans speakers are excluded.
What is the biggest speaking English nation?
Speaking English? Probably, I don't know, probably Nigeria maybe, I don't know.
It's America.
You could say that, yeah.
Is English from America?
No, it's not from America.
There, your question is answered.
How's it answered? Please explain.
Well, look.
Because they brought it, America is America now because the English made it America.
Well, a group of English, Irish, and a few others made it America. It's not down to one group of people. Also the Spanish people and so much more.
They only had the right to rule over the settled land.
That is not the argument, right?
But wait, you need to understand that King George gave them that right, okay? Now, the mere fact that they had to
there was 6 King Georges.
What?
There was 6 King Georges.
Okay, well, the third. So, the fact that they had to ask him for permission just means that they're English. You understand? The fact that they had to pay taxes to the crown means that they're English. There's also the other colonies, like your Louisiana, which was part of France, Canada, which was also a French colony. There's, Spain, Mexico.
There were multiple
Cuba,
colonies. Mexico was a part of America the other way around, and they took the land. And I understand Louisiana, and that's how the Creole languages came in, and so much more. Now, that topic, I do not want to get into it because it's a completely different topic. Now, we want to stick to the topic of conversation. Now, you're wearing that shirt. Why did DJ's Boo A not give a pushback onto your answers? He sat and listened to it, number one. Number two.
Okay, stop. Let me give you the first. Number one, he didn't give pushback because he's not Galston Anthony. Galston Anthony is the nigga that gives pushback.
Okay,
Galston Anthony is the guy that's got that hard talk style. DJ Spoo is not on that hard talk tip,
Okay, so he just sat there and listened to it. But the thing is
that's his style.
And he got under fire. I believe that, recording it in a different studio because of, possibly recording in a different studio because of the fact that he didn't push back.
No.
Tell me, why is that the case?
He recorded at a different studio because they told him that he can record there as long as he doesn't invite me.
So you were the problem?
No, I was the solution.
Solution to what?
To us leaving there. That's it.
Somebody's got to talk to this guy, right? Thank goodness this podcast is recorded in my house and nobody could tell me anything about anyone. And I wonder why DJ Spoo didn't create a podcast in his home or any of the spaces that he can.
He doesn't want people all up in his house. He doesn't want to work from home like you.
Yeah, but it's not like people are all in my house. I got security to let people in and so much more.
Was that your second question?
Yeah, that was my second question.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, look, I feel like, in all fairness, no one can make a judgment on the context of that episode without actually having me have my side and my perspective,
Well, here's the opportunity right now. I think you've said your side.
This is not the Equality Court, nor is it the Human Rights Commission. So I just feel like, to be fair to anyone, everyone should be able to defend themselves and actually put their argument up for scrutiny. And also, I feel like we need to stop curtailing freedom of speech. People might say that I impugned on the dignity of white people.
Which you have.
No, that they might say so, and you might feel so. I don't feel that I've impugned on their dignity. If you've slaughtered the whole entire world, you've got no dignity to begin with. There's nothing I can say that can make white people worse than they already are.
Let's be clear here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak to not just to you, but a whole lot of people. I said this to Earns. If I go out and slaughter 100,000 white people today, it is not black people that slaughtered 100,000 white people. It is Galston who slaughtered them.
A black
now,
person.
A black man.
Yeah.
It is Galston that slaughtered them.
Yeah.
Now, if I think, you know
now,
what,
hold on,
I want to up my game. I want to up my game. Let me just finish that.
No,
you may bring your point.
No, I'm not bringing a point.
You may bring your point. I have no problem,
Okay.
but let me finish this part. But if I decide that, you know what, I want to up my game here and I want to, like, you know, expand and have 10 more people, and then I want to go for 1 million, maybe 2. And guess what? I become very overzealous and I go slaughter 5 million white people. 10 black people slaughtering 5 million white people. It is these 10 black people that slaughtered 5 million people. It is not black people.
That's stupid.
That is not stupid.
I'll
so
tell
you
you
want
why.
to know what?
I'll tell you why.
So
I'll tell you why.
do you have to
I'll tell you
suffer
why.
for my crimes?
I'll tell you why.
Do you have to suffer for my crimes?
I'll tell you why. Right? You've eliminated 100,000 mouths.
Right.
First. Now there's 10 of you. You've eliminated 1 million mouths. Now there's more food for the 10 of you. And there's also more food for everybody else who is like you or who did not get killed by you. So those people who are left behind, who are still alive, benefit from your savagery. Now, if they don't prosecute you, right, then they're complicit because they're enjoying the benefits. It's just like this. You steal someone's car, right? And then you leave the country and you leave that car in my garage. I get caught driving around that stolen car. I get arrested for the theft of that car. I did not steal that car. I did not know it was stolen, but I'm benefiting from the theft of that car.
You get arrested for driving a stolen car.
You
do
understand what
not
I'm saying?
get prosecuted for stealing the car.
So when
this is where you're mistaken.
When do we arrest
and I understand,
white? Hold on,
I understand it's complicated.
No, it's not complicated.
But let me.
No, you made my point. When do we arrest white people for inheriting stolen wealth?
And this is where I have a strong disagreement with you. All right, there were white people that didn't benefit. Number one. Number two.
Which ones?
There's a shit ton of
ones?
poor white people.
Which ones?
I'm not even a rich man, right?
Most of them are Afrikaners.
Let me just finish this. I am not even a rich man.
Most of them are Afrikaners.
I'm not even a rich man.
Okay.
But I'm richer than 99% of white people in South Africa.
Not a chance.
In every chance.
Not a chance. The poorest white man is richer than you.
Oh, not
Yes.
a chance.
Yes.
Oh, please, they eat my dust. They
Let me
wish
tell you
they
why.
were in my
Let me
position.
tell you why.
Every day, all day.
Let me tell you why. A poor white gets savagely beaten in the streets, killed, murdered. There will be consequences. Galston Anthony, millionaire, killed in the streets. Black man, zero consequences.
Okay, please explain to me what these consequences are and by who were these consequences held. Because I completely disagree.
The consequences
Touch Galston Anthony, and I guess this is a status thing. Touch Galston Anthony, it's curtains. It's curtains for you, right? For whoever did it, right?
Why?
It's curtains. Well, I guess because I'm Galston Anthony. It's a little different to being another black man, right?
Another rich black man.
Well, just another black man in general.
How many rich black men get killed in the streets every day?
Oh, I don't know.
Lots.
Okay, there's quite a lot.
You understand
now,
what I'm saying?
I want to understand to what you were saying. What is it that a white man would be privileged over me and my dead body versus his? Please explain that to me.
The mere fact that white people, right, have defended themselves for centuries and they've protected themselves. They've conquered other nations. They dominate them. And because of that dominance, their lives matter more than other lives.
No. I don't see any white man's life mattering more than mine.
It might not be in your perception.
Oh, not perception. I know this is fact.
Okay,
I know there's
fine.
so many white people that love to be in my position any day.
They might love to be in your position until that position also means they have to be black. They'd love to be white in your position. Yes, but not black.
I don't know. I don't know how much of this is bragging or how much of this is actually, just talking smack. But being black has been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
But no white person would ever
Worldwide.
agree with it.
Oh, white people want to make me kids because of I'm.
They want to make you kids, yes, because they're exotic, maybe.
Oh yeah,
but
so
exotic
black. So
taste.
being black has made me exotic everywhere, from this country to every country in the
So
world.
why don't any of those people live in black communities?
Why would you want to live in a community you don't want to live in?
No, I'm just saying.
For example,
Why don't they want
example-
to live in black
for
communities?
example,
Just explain that.
Okay.
They don't mind having a baby with a black man who lives outside of the black community.
let me tell you this.
But for them to live
I'm not moving
in a
to
black
Brakpan. I'm not moving to Benoni.
Brakpan is
I'm not moving to any of these white poor neighborhoods that
Yeah.
is Pretoria North. Forget it.
the Val,
Leave
where
me
there's
out
white
of it.
car guards.
Leave me out of it. I don't
Yeah.
want to be amongst those people. Why? Not because they're white. Because we're just not on the same level.
they're
We're not
poor.
on the same there we go.
That's classist.
We're not. That is classist,
Mhm.
right? So 100%. What I'm trying to explain to you here is that not by virtue of them being white, they're rich. By virtue of being white, they're racist.
Yeah.
By virtue of being white, they're richer than black people. I said, I am not a rich man. However, I'm more privileged than 99% of white people in South Africa by a long shot. Now, the fact
Is that
that
because you're fully Homo sapien sapien?
this guy and his dumb jokes, man.
It's not
I
a
think my
joke.
point here is that black people are teaching other black people that you are underprivileged because of white people and the fact that you're black. Now, you're an intelligent man. I think that there's misuse of your intelligence.
Okay, I don't believe that either. What I want to put to you, my privileged black brother,
You're just as privileged. You're just as privileged. You're not far behind. You're privileged.
I've got ancestors that were killed by the apartheid system, so I'm less privileged. I've got more black tax because of that. So the way I'd like to put it for you to understand, right, is that as long as white people feel like they can continue their culture in our nation, they're going against the values of our people. And therefore, they can only see themselves as superior, or maybe they see themselves as so inferior that they need to protect their inferior culture by ensuring that there is no contact with the superior culture, which is ours. Either or, that makes them racist. Now, just wanting black people to live better lives, right, does not mean you're not racist. It just means that you've got some form of empathy, you know? White liberals have got that form of empathy, but they do not want to divorce themselves of the privileges of their whiteness.
Why would they? So why would I divorce myself as a privilege of being black? Being black has been so amazing to me. You want to strip me off my privilege? I'm privileged because I'm a handsome black man. I'm a privileged because I'm a healthy black man. I'm privileged because I'm a hard. Why would I want to strip myself of that privilege?
Do you know who else had privilege?
Who?
Nelson Mandela.
And?
He's royalty.
Okay, and?
So therefore, he did not need to live like every other black person. He went to a good school. Do you understand what I'm saying? He could study whatever he wanted to study. He could go to Wits University, do law, whatever the case may be, because he was part of the native nobility. Now, the native nobility had a choice to make. They could either enjoy their privilege or they could commit class suicide and join the struggle for liberation. Nelson Mandela committed class suicide, joined the struggle for liberation, ended up in a 3-room state house, I guess, in Soweto on Vilakazi Street.
What does that have to do with our conversation?
Now, this is the actual point of it, is that for us as black people, our existence right now, our contemporary existence, is part of a resistance struggle. We inherit that struggle as soon as we are born. That struggle is not over. They've just passed the baton to our generations. And each time they pass the baton, there are more and more privileged among us that think that the struggle should be over, or at least there could be a ceasefire, leaving many more behind. And until we are all liberated, none of us are liberated.
How do you want to be liberated?
I want to ensure that my blackness is not synonymous with suffering. My blackness is not synonymous with poverty.
So I'm liberated.
Your blackness is synonymous with suffering.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
I've suffered, but it's not synonymous
No,
with that.
not you. You never need to suffer.
Yeah, but
the mere fact that you're a black man and blackness in general is synonymous with suffering, with poverty. You understand? They never say, we want to feed the starving babies in Europe, or we want to feed the starving babies in Asia. But there are starving babies in Europe. There are starving babies in Asia.
Here's the thing that you're doing.
They always say, we want to feed the starving babies in Africa.
Why?
Because Africa is synonymous with poverty, Africa is synonymous with blackness, and blackness is synonymous with suffering.
Here's 2 facts that I want to tell you. Number 1, who the hell branded black people as inferior? Now, I'm not saying who said. Who branded? Black people owned that themselves. Why did we decide we're stupid enough to own that? Right? When people were believing that they were inferior, I was not in that class. I bunked it. I found out about it a whole lot later. I heard, hey, we're inferior. I'm like, to who?
Okay.
All right. Number 2, in this day and age, we have so much information. Now, understand, it doesn't mean now that you have information, tomorrow morning you wake up a rich black man. I get that. But why is it that we're fighting a fight against another instead of fighting a fight for ourselves to rise and liberate ourselves like you're talking about, but without shedding any blood, without creating any more hate, without us being against them? Why is that the case?
Because there's many opposing forces. It's about a balance of forces. The revolution is not perfect. The same way you can say as an individual you didn't feel inferior because you were black. Doesn't mean that...
I feel amazing because I'm black.
It doesn't mean that now because you feel as if you are equal or maybe superior, that all blacks are superior. Just in the same way as when a black person massacres 1 million white people, doesn't mean that the blacks were the ones that massacred the 1 million white people, right? Your argument.
Correct. I stand by it.
Yeah. Now, if you seeing yourself as superior changes the behavior of white people in the way in which they treat blacks, right? Because they've now encountered Galston Anthony. And because they've encountered Galston Anthony, they see, oh, blacks are capable.
You got to say the whole thing. Galston Anthony, the best to ever do it.
Because they've encountered the best to ever do it, Galston Anthony, they are now convinced that, okay, blacks are maybe not inferior. You as an individual have changed the minds of all the whites and changed the perception of all blacks. And all the blacks that believe that they are inferior are now, misperceiving things. Do you understand? So that's the role that you can choose to have, if you choose to have it. The role that I chose to have.
So let's all choose that role because it's an amazing place.
Tell you which role I chose to have. The role that I chose to have, right, is that the notion that you grew up with the other black people that surrounded you, that felt that they were inferior or believed that they were inferior, right, did not change because of you. With or without you, did not change because of you, even though you didn't believe what they believed. So for me, I used my platform to conscientize other blacks about the difference in our culture between us and white South Africans or white settlers or the colonizer, so to speak, even the naturalized whites, the ones who are more liberal, you know what I mean, who are hip, are down with the times. So I changed black people's perception of themselves. I said to the black person, you do not need to see yourself as inferior because your culture is superior. Your civilization is superior. Your society...
I'm going to relate to what you're saying in this fashion. A little story. I don't know if this story is relevant or necessary. There was a period of time I decided to move to Cape Town. I was lowly at heart.
You wanted to fuck white bitches.
I've been doing that all my life. All kinds of
by the
women
way,
of all kinds of races.
I lost my virginity to a white girl.
You privileged mother. Moving on. And when I went there, because of my privilege of being black and looking this young, The area I lived in was nothing but white. Did I know the area before I moved there? No. I went on the internet, looked for a beach house, beach apartment, and moved there. Right at that beach apartment, there was a bar and all the little stores right there. So I get out of my place and boom, I'm right there. Then I decided I'm going to join the bar there, and there was nothing but white people. Nothing but white people. I get there, and then I get to the bar, and I think a little bit of me, because of this teaching that white people think they're superior. I'm on my own business. I buy my drink, and I'm having a good time. And then I start having conversations with one or two people that are there. Consider they're all white. Now, a lot of them are in their 20s. I'm nearly 40. My black privilege makes me look a lot younger. And then they having this conversation with me, and they really liking my energy and whatnot. I get to meet a whole bunch of white people a couple months later. One white boy, 24 years of age, who's doing okay with himself. You know what he came to me and say? Can you be my mentor? I was taken aback. The hell you want me to be your mentor for? I just came here a couple months ago. What the hell am I going to mentor you about?
Boys, he's a young man. Don't you feel like...
Exactly. Doesn't he want a mentor that looks like him? Doesn't he want a white...
He wants
man,
a mentor that's successful. And if the black man does not feel inferior, he wouldn't be so surprised if a young white boy wants him as a mentor.
Argument is made. So I'm trying to say to you that the racial part is the part where it stops black people. The factor that they've been somehow been sold that they're inferior and they accepted that they're inferior is what's stopping them. Black people need to stop that. If I've got a whole bunch of white minions... So are you helping
them stop that? Or are you just looking at them and laughing and pointing and saying, I'm the better black?
What does it look like? Does it look like I'm laughing, or does it look like I'm saying, stop that and let's walk a different direction? Comment below.
Well, look, I'm not saying stop that and we can walk a different direction. I'm walking in that direction as a beacon and people are following me.
I'm saying, don't follow him. I'm not saying follow me because I don't want any followers. What I'm saying is that the path that many people walk, and I love this brother of mine. Yeah. This guy is a brilliant guy. Some of the smartest people in the industry. And mind you, there's a whole lot of smart people or pseudo-smart people in this industry. You're smarter than 99% of them. Easily, majority of them you're not. But the thing is, sometimes I feel like you're going the wrong direction. I say, redirect them in the right direction. You've got the power. You've gained the power. You've got more power than I have. That's a privilege you have. You've got much more power than I have. Walk them the right direction. I don't want disciples. You do.
Look, I don't want disciples either. And that wasn't the whole entire purpose of that episode. All I'm saying is that when a black kid goes on to X, you'll see a lot of white people with Neanderthals as their profile pictures.
You're on this Neanderthal thing.
As long as black kids see themselves in a better light, I don't mind being the sacrificial lamb.
And that's the thing. That's admirable. Do you know how admirable is that? You know the saying says, "You've came a long way." The problem is you went the wrong way.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
The thing about fighting for black people, it's always a thankless task. Do you understand? But for me, I don't do it for praise. I do it because I can. Do you understand? I can be influential. I can shut down the timeline for an entire week. I can get a reaction out of the richest man in the world.
And that is true. And in as much as I would say that I just want to talk down at you, not only have you, can you have. Now, that's exactly my point.
Now,
use it the right way.
Now, let's just say, black people needed a Conan, the barbarian, right? And I was the only one able to wield that sword, right? Wouldn't I be betraying black people if I chose to walk the other way? If I were to walk away from the fight to bring back black dignity. The mere fact that Nelson Mandela, to this day, in the grave, is fighting for his legacy. Fighting. To this day. It's not a foregone conclusion. Even though he gave our country, and especially its black people, the moral higher ground. Do you know? They cannot say that, oh, the black people chased all the white people to the sea. As soon as they got political power, they started oppressing white people. They cannot say that. Even when they claim that there's race-based laws that are, disadvantaging white people, if you look at just the numbers, the statistics, whether you look at the number of executives that are white male, whether you look at the number of management employees that are white male, white female, whether you look at just the general unemployment rate, white people's unemployment rate is in the single digits.
Do you know why I don't like that argument at all?
I'm just saying these are the
Because
results.
The bigger you get the number, the more distorted ratio becomes. I don't like that argument one little bit, and I'll say it again. The bigger the number is, the more distorted ratio becomes. That is math.
Why is it? Hold on.
So
wait. Why is it then that the Indians are a smaller number than the whites?
And they're richer than the whites.
No.
Oh, by far.
No, they're not.
Look, they're nearly 1%. Nearly 1% of the population.
No.
Right? Nearly 1%.
They're more. There's like almost 2 million Indians.
Let me finish.
1.7 million Indians
Nearly
to 4.5 million whites.
1% of Indian people are multi-millionaires.
How?
Tell me, how many poor Muslim Indians do you know?
Not many.
Okay. How many poor white people you know?
Okay. Now, let me break it down for you.
There you go. Okay.
No,
So
no,
let me ask you.
No, let me break it down for you, Dad. That has got nothing to do with their ability and everything to do with their culture. Indians live in multi-generational households. Indians have got better family bonds than whites. Do you understand what I'm saying? So their family structure is what shields them. Whereas white people, there's orphanages that have got mostly white children there, and they don't even get donations. No one even cares for them because white people's culture is that once a white person has come to a certain level, whether they're richer than the other white people, then they abandon all the other poor whites. You understand? When poor white people go into a community, they don't go into white communities, they go into black communities. That's the only place where they're accepted because black people have got more humanity in
You
us.
see, what you're doing there is manipulation again. I don't appreciate.
It's not manipulation. This is the fact.
So the fact is, you're bringing black people in the conversation. You're bringing black people in the conversation of white people and Indian people. Black people were not involved in this conversation that we're talking about now. So if you're using the culture argument, that is the culture of
even poor Indians live with blacks.
If it's the culture of Indian people or the Muslim Indian community to stay that way, to bring that structure, guess what? It happens that the culture is now superior to that of the white people, and that's why it works. Follow that. Black people, as a matter of fact, I'd encourage it. Do that way. Let's get wealthy.
Yeah.
So now here's another question. Are you aware, and I say this with command and authority, are you aware that there are more millionaire black people than there are all the races combined? I will say it again. Are you aware there are more millionaires that are black in South Africa than all the other races combined?
So there are 5 million colored people, 1.7 million Indians or Asians, 4.5 million whites. That's what, 7 million plus the 5 million coloreds. So 12 million. You're telling me that there's over 12 million black millionaires in South Africa? You lie.
Okay. So your math is like whole math. That's not the math I'm making.
Okay.
In South Africa, there are 36,000 millionaires recorded in 2023. Out of those 36,000, 17,000 are black. That is half the population, 48% to be exact.
Right? You see?
48% are black.
And out of the population in general.
No. That again, I said this earlier on. The moment you use ratio, the bigger the number, it gets distorted. You cannot use ratio that way. It's not the correct way to use ratio, right? And that's where black people have it wrong.
How many black people are poor?
Well, I think South Africa.
Most.
Yes, but yes. How many colored people are poor?
Most.
Almost all of them.
Most.
It's using your ratio thing. They are far more poor in colored people. There are far more colored people than there will ever be black people in this country. There will be far more poor Khoisan people. There will ever be black people in the country in ratio.
No, never.
Absolutely, and I say that with command.
Okay, let me tell you what. Now, colored people, were assimilated into white culture. It was a process called toenader.
And yet they poor.
And yet, even as poor as they are, they'll never be as poor as the blacks.
Oh, no, they're very poor.
And
okay, now let me ask you
they'll
this.
never
Name
be.
me 5 rich colored people. I'll wait.
Okay. So
I'll wait.
Rich colored people. Michelle Phillips is probably rich. She's the CEO of Transnet. Benny McCarthy, he's rich. He's also a soccer player. Stephen Pienaar, he's rich. I mean, like, he's one of the biggest. Sean Bartlett, he's also another one.
Sean Bartlett is not one of them.
Really, he's
not
rich.
one of them. He's not rich.
He's rich comparatively speaking. He played in.
No, we said rich. We didn't say comparative. We said
okay.
rich. Let's go.
I'm telling you, rich is always relative. So speaking,
we talking about someone who's worth 18 million rand or more, $1 million. I'm waiting.
You telling me that Sean Bartlett is less than 18 million rand?
Oh yeah.
The same guy who sued Toyota for almost 10 million rand.
Sean Bartlett,
canceling
let's have a call and have this conversation.
Bro,
let's
there's
go.
no way Sean Bartlett
All right, I'll give him that. Let's go.
18 million rand.
Let's go.
Okay.
Who's the final person?
Who can I think of?
See the struggle of trying to figure out these people. And
no. It's because I don't know. It's because I don't know.
You are an intelligent man, and you're well-resourced when it comes to...
Trevor Manuel, another one.
We made 5.
Edward Kiswetter. That's another one. The SARS commissioner. Bro, there's so many rich colored people.
They're not many.
They're rich.
Colored people are so impoverished. They're rich. Now let's ask this.
No, they're
rich.
rich.
The poorest group, right? Actually,
there's many rich.
The poorest group is actually the Khoisan. Please name me Khoisan people that are rich.
No, but you see, Khoisan don't live in this capitalistic world that we live in. They live as hunter-gatherers, most of them.
They're the real South Africans, yet they're not benefiting.
I wouldn't call them real South Africans because, no, when they lived in that country that they lived in, they did not call it South Africa. They never, ever imagined that there would be a country called South Africa, ever.
But your argument is starting to fall apart because what's happening is that South Africa was not called South Africa until white people called it South Africa.
And so?
So now this is the same argument you're doing with the Khoisan people.
And so?
That's the same argument you're doing with the Khoisans.
So hold on. If white people could have eliminated all black people or all native people, do you think they would have done that, yes or no?
You know what? I don't know.
Okay, let me tell you
because
why.
Let
me tell you why they actually would have. Any other place where they went to, they used diseases to eliminate the native population. In the Americas,
why did they not do that in Zimbabwe?
Okay, forget Zimbabwe because they started here. No. But to take us out, don't make it a particular thing in Zimbabwe. What I'm saying is this: within the African continent, because of how close the African continent is to Europe, right? We've got similar immunity to certain diseases because diseases spread, and then you get natural immunity after the disease spread and herd immunity. Yes, sir. Herd immunity, right? And then that spreads. So when you move to other continents that are further away, there's less likelihood that those people would have herd immunity to whatever pathogens that your population has been exposed to first. So it was very difficult for them to find pathogens that we hadn't been exposed to because we are on the same time zone. You understand what I'm saying?
What does the time zone have to do with being exposed to the same pathogen?
I'm just saying we're on the same time zone, as in we've been in contact with one another.
But time zone and that is not related.
The reason we're in the same region, I'm not talking about we're in the same time zone.
It's not like when they travel and they walk through a straight line and there's no mountain and rivers.
Yes, but people have been traveling around the south of Africa for many, many years. There's been lots of contact between us. So any pathogens or any diseases, right, that would have spread amongst us that could be brought by a foreign group into our subcontinent, right? We would have had time to grow immunity. We also had inoculation. I don't know if you've seen Zulu people who've got like scars here.
Yeah,
those are scars of inoculation.
I'm aware of that.
That's how they vaccinate each other. That's the Zulu vaccine. So we've had practices of inoculation for many, many years. I mean, even the first vaccines were tested by scientists who were observing their slaves that came from West Africa, like the smallpox vaccine. They could not decimate our populations because they could not find a pathogen deadly enough to kill us that wouldn't kill them because of
what is your obsession?
Immunity.
What is your obsession?
Yeah.
With white people being evil. Now, please understand I asked this question. I'm not saying that there's not a group of Europeans or white people that have not done atrocious, evil things. But what is the obsession with white people being so bad? Is it not equal to the obsession that a group of white people find black people being so bad? And does this ever end? Does this circle ever end of just hating the person? This person's to blame and that person points to that person. Does it ever stop? And what is the obsession for?
Okay. So white people have got evil intentions in general as a group. They want to dominate. They want to decimate. They want to obliterate.
That sounds like humankind.
No, it's actually not humankind, because let me put it to you this way. Why isn't it that Africans who had shipbuilding capabilities, right? They were able to build boats. They were able to travel, you know what I mean, for millennia.
I was asking about your obsession.
Right? No, I'm just saying, I'm making an observation of white culture. And you think it's an obsession because their culture is consistent and it's consistently evil. It's not. It's just me making an observation. And at any point in time, if we go through the timeline of white people and whiteness, right? Anytime I take a snapshot of that, I just see savagery and evil. That is it. Their culture is savage and evil.
But Africa is just the same.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I mean, look at
We're much more human.
Dumbo. Look at Shagamai Dumbo.
Who's that?
You see, this is where you got to do your history. In the 1600s, there was a
No,
person called
from where?
Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Look at a
What
lot
did he
of
do?
these. He obliterated. He was probably the greatest warrior Africa's ever seen. Something.
How?
We'll have that discussion.
How? Where's his kingdom right now? Where's the evidence of that?
We will. There's a lot of evidence. We will have that
The
discussion.
evidence I have of Shaka Zulu's conquering is the fact that people speak his language much further away.
So we will have that discussion on a
from-
different podcast because we want to stay in line with what we're talking about. I get it. But the fact that the obsession against a race is what is initiating the hate.
It's not an
what is-
obsession.
it's an obsession, and it's
When
a bad
did
obsession.
black people land in Europe and decimate those populations? When did black people
Exactly my
land in
point.
the Americas and decimate those populations? When did black people land in Asia and decimate those populations? It's never happened. White people came to
I
other
think
people's lands
then
and
black people,
decimated them.
then black people are good at killing themselves. So
I'd rather
it's-
we kill ourselves. I'd rather we have fratricide than we
Please,
have,
Nota, no killing of nobody.
It's like and
I
like.
do
Either
not.
way.
I do not encourage
No,
that
I would
behavior
rather.
whatsoever.
I would not
I
like
object,
any killing.
I object and denounce that it's better to kill your own than to be killed by somebody else. I denounce that in every form. The idea that it's okay for me to kill you.
I don't believe in killing either.
It's okay for
I've got no
me
blood
to
on my
go
hands.
ahead against you. But the moment a white person does it, it's racist. Look, racist or not, there's a way we got to come together and figure this thing out. Now, understand we don't live
It's
in
a very simple
kumbaya
way.
world.
It's a
We
very
don't
simple
live,
way.
We don't live in a kumbaya
I'll
world.
tell you how we can live together. White
Here-
people need to assimilate to our culture. Very simple. They're on our continent. Assimilate to our culture. You don't have, right, the connection or the native ancestry to South Africa to make that call. And for me, I do.
do.
What do you mean?
I've got a native ancestry to Africa.
To South Africa?
To South Africa, yeah.
What do
You
you mean?
can find a way that it comes down to South Africa. But either way, it's Africa.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is this, is that all of my ancestors are South African. 100%. You know what I mean? My entire bloodline is South African. And therefore, as a native South African, right, for someone who doesn't have the same 100% native South African blood, to tell me that I should see white people as equally South African as me, I think,
And I can
Is
tell you
unfair.
now that is messed up. But given the time, we'd have to end this podcast.
Mhm.
Let's end it on a good note, my brother.
Okay.
Let's
cool.
have a part 2 another time.
Okay.
Thank you for coming for the abrupt end.
Yeah.
Again, it's about time. And
Yeah.
we're definitely going to do another one.
No, thank
so
you.
we got to run, brother.
Thank
You so much for coming. And again, like I said, this is a brilliant man. And there's some things I agree with him. There's some things I don't agree with him. But there's some things that are open to interpretation according to you. Now, I understand a lot of controversy came out of me today in ways that you do not know me. But you will get to know me as I grow this channel. And you get to understand my way of thinking and why. Yes, some people will call me privileged. Some people will call me whole different things. And I accept all those
What's the time,
titles.
sorry? On your wrist?
You know, I'm in the middle of doing a little link, and he just... Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and make sure that you comment well and say, hey, what you guys think and what kind of topics you want us to talk about. Until the next episode, thank you, Nota, for coming. Peace out.
Shove, my brother.